All right, so thanks very much for joining me tonight. I'm really happy that you guys could be here with me, and I'm delighted to be able to guide this session for you. I have to be honest with you, I've always thought that one day I might like to be a tour guide because it sort of marries my love of traveling and meeting new people, going to places, and just sharing random facts and trivia. So tonight, while regrettably we're not going to be going anywhere exotic, I'm going to try and guide us around the idea of what it's like to be a more responsible tourist. I should mention this session is being recorded, so if everybody's okay with that, great. And of course, you can find your copy of it in the gift shop at the end of the tour. I'm always curious to hear about people's travels and their travel adventures. And so just before we get started, if time and money and logistics and COVID were not an issue, and you could travel anywhere you wanted in the world, where would you go? And I'm just going to ask, just going around the room, just go ahead and one by one.
Mexico.
Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Any others?
Oh, Hawaii.
Hawaii. The tropics.
Japan.
Japan. Japan. Land of the midnight sun.
Me too.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Asia.
Yeah. Go during cherry blossom season. Yeah, for sure.
I did last year. So
oh, you lucky duck.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
I bet you have some great pictures. It's just great.
I just
Yes.
love Pokemon. That's the only reason I want to go.
Oh, Pokemon. Any places else? Did I miss anybody?
Sticking with Asia, Vietnam for New Year's, for the Asian New Year.
Yes, that's on my list. For me, I would probably pick northern Canada, maybe somewhere Finland, to see the Northern Lights. I saw them once when I was a little boy, maybe about 4 or 5, and I know how close I am to them. But it's something that that's next on my list. It's on my bucket list to see the Northern Lights.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In last night's session, Tony was talking about self-care, and I mentioned that what's causing stress in my life is not being able to travel. And it's something that I find stressful, and I'm anxiously waiting to do it again. And there's this growing body of evidence that suggests travel leads to greater well-being. It introduces ways of reducing stress and improving cardiovascular health. And so while we've had our wings clipped with the COVID pandemic, there's a lot of people out there who are feeling the pangs of being grounded, and they're looking at innovative ways to recreate that travel experience. So I saw this one. I figured it was going to do this. It never wants to play well, so I just will do it this way. I'm not sure, maybe you've seen this before, but here's one guy's way of sort of dealing with the lack of pandemic. Darn it. Let's try again. Nope. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, it was it was basically him sitting in front of his washing machine, and he had his cell phone in there, and it was sort of playing a video of what it would look like looking at the side of an aircraft, and he was sort of recreating in his laundry room the experience of maybe flying. So there we go. But if make-believe isn't a good enough option for you, there are other options. For example, in August, Taiwan's airlines, EVA Airways, they offered this concept of flight to nowhere, where basically you took off from the airport in Taipei, you flew around Taiwan, the islands, and then landed 3 hours later. And some people, they saw that was a great experience. And other countries have gotten on board: Brunei, Japan, Hong Kong, and Australia in September. Qantas, the national carrier of Australia, they released tickets for a 7-hour flight. It left from Sydney, flew north over the Australia's Gold Coast, around the Great Barrier Reef, out into the outback for Uluru, flew around Uluru, and then landed back in Sydney. And it sold out within 10 minutes of that flight going available for sale. So people are obviously wanting to get out and travel, even just to experience the sensation. And I had to think why, because I remember a time when people would, bemoan air travel, going to the airport, queuing up in lines, worrying if their carry-on case was going to fit in the overhead compartment, being cramped up with a bunch of other strangers, eating crummy airline food. But apparently the psychology behind it is that for many people, we have an innate desire to escape. And this helps drive the travel experience. And the pandemic era lockdowns have really intensified this urge. And also for many of us, travel's just become habitual. It's something we do every year. We plan for it. It's part of our lives, like a fact of nature, something we've always done. But then I was reading about Singapore Airlines, and they took a similar but slightly different approach. They offered a suite of experience. Customers could get a chance to tour the airplanes, eat airline food, meet with the pilots. Kids could dress up as flight attendants. But because of a fairly large outcry from environmental groups who said that, hey, listen, look, these flights to nowhere encourage carbon-intensive travel for no good reason. And so Singapore Airlines decided, okay, we're going to offer these experiences, but on the ground only. Just to give you an idea, CO2 emissions, they're obviously the culprit that contribute to greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect in global warming. But just to sort of put this into perspective, give some context, if the airline industry was a country, its CO2 emissions would be in sixth place of all the countries, being in the highest to lowest, sixth place, just after Japan and before Germany. And I thought, wow, I sort of knew that there was, aircraft was not necessarily all that environmentally friendly, but I didn't realize this. And as a matter of fact, if you go to a lot of the airlines' web pages, they'll have links where you can click on, and it will take you to a generator that will tell you, if you put in where you're traveling from to where you're traveling to, how much your CO2 emissions would be. And if you want to massage your guilt a little bit or feel better about yourself or you're traveling, you can actually buy carbon credits. So you pay money and it goes to organizations that do things for the environment that help offset your carbon footprint or help settle your guilt maybe. I want to do a little quiz with you guys, and it's kind of just a fun pub style quiz. Just, it's not really for anything. And it's on the impacts of tourism. So the way that you get there to do this quiz, and you can do this on your cell phone or you can just open up another browser. And what I'll also do is I'll just copy the link into chat. So I'll do that first. I'll copy the link into chat. And you should just be able to click on the link and that will take you there. But if you can't access the chat, no worries. If you go to joinmyquiz.com and you enter this code here. So either click on the link and you should be going there, or you can type in joinmyquiz.com and put in the code. And it will ask you for your name. You can put in your name. If you want to remain anonymous, that's totally cool. You can pick one of the fun names that it generates. And then once I see everybody, I will go ahead and we'll take the quiz. It's 5 questions. They're all multiple choice. They all have 4 answers. And it's just a fun quiz. You do earn points if you get the right answer. And the quicker you answer, the more points you get. So let's see. We've got 4 people so far. Tammy, Brian, Keith, Dan joined. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're missing Tammy C. Perfect. And then Randall.
Giving me some grief. I can't. It says it's an invalid game code.
484490.
Oh,
I see everybody chose to put their own names. No one chose the random. The other day when I was playing this, I was. Oh, what happened here?
I was just gonna say, sorry, Attila. You in your Zoom chat, you forgot to put the O at the end of the 9.
Oh, I am so sorry, guys. Oh, my apologies.
It happens.
There we go. I'm so sorry about that.
That's what took me so long to get into, but then I had to. Yeah, I figured the way.
Thank you. So Randall, Any more luck? Randall?
On mute, most likely.
If you're on mute, Randall, yeah, you might. I can't hear you. Oh, there we go. Perfect. I see you there.
Got her.
Hey, awesome. All right, so gang's all here. I'm gonna go ahead and start the quiz. All right. Good luck.
How do we play?
Oh, you just should have the answers. Cheeky. Awesome. So everybody's answered. So let's take a look.
Dang it.
He yelled at me.
France, eh?
All right. So TK, that's Tony. She's in the lead.
Yep.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Bit of a guess.
So a bit of a guess. Oh, it's a good guess. Well guessed. So France was the number one country to receive the most visitors in 2019, and it actually follows France, then Spain, then the United States of America, and then China. So it followed in that order.
Hmm.
All right. Let's go to the next question.
Burnaby.
Yes.
Burnaby would be the answer for 2020.
Yes. Yes.
100%.
It is the jewel of BC.
Uh,
Yeah, so Bangkok was the number one city with most visitors in 2019. Now, I should mention these statistics are coming from the United Nations World Tourism Organization. I didn't make them up. And I would think Barcelona, that was sort of my first guess. I would have thought, because you think of all the over tourism, and Barcelona keeps sort of coming up repeatedly, but it was Bangkok. And Budapest is a beautiful city to visit, home of my
Awesome.
parents. All right, question number 3.
I am a crappy tourist.
All these people go to France. They don't go to the Eiffel Tower.
That's what I thought.
Yes, yes. And Eiffel Tower, I think, was number 4. And when I was looking up this question, I sort of had to split hairs a little bit because a number of places suggested that the number 1 attraction visited was the Las Vegas Strip. And I had to split hairs here a little bit because, well, I think the Las Vegas Strip is amazing. It's I think a number of different attractions, and so I went with sort of like a traditional definition, and the Colosseum just was constantly on number 1 of the list. All right, the question number 4.
Burnaby again.
Yes.
Ah.
damn it.
Thought you were trying to trick us.
You'd think, actually, we would. I was hoping that it would be Canada, just because we're so green, right? And
Yeah.
Australia, just because they're so green. But actually, it's Bhutan, and I'm just going to share with you on the screen here. Bhutan is just that place right above Bangladesh, and
Give
sort
us
of
a second.
in
We
the
gotta get back
Himalayas.
to that.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's just above Bangladesh and in the Himalayas there. And to actually get a visa you have to pay money, and 100% of their tourism is based on the policies of sustainable tourism. So the money goes back to the local economy, it goes to local handicrafts, the hotels are local, and it's a very, very strict tourist area. Yeah, Bhutan. Number one, tiny little place. All right, sorry.
Also the happiest place on earth.
Is it the happiest place?
Yes. Yep.
Excellent.
I've done a little bit of research on Bhutan, so yeah.
Is it
an
on your list,
amazing
Tony?
country. Oh, I'd love to, but I'm a bit scared to go through India.
It'll be a fun travel experience, I'm sure. All
Yeah,
right,
definitely.
So I think this is going to be the last question now. And it's a toughie.
Started off so strong.
Oh,
So you might find this a shocking fact. The average household, Canadian household, uses about 326 liters of water per person per day. A village of about 700 people in a developing country uses an average of about 500 liters of water per month. And luxury hotels, these are the ones with the huge swimming pools, the golf courses, and the amenities and the spas, and they can use up to 1,800 liters per guest per day. So just to give a bit of perspective there. So let's see, what was the final score? Again, this wasn't for any kind of reward or prize. It was purely just like some pub trivia. And let's see.
I think those scores are wrong. I don't know what happened. I think my computer stopped working.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, me too.
I got none of them right. So.
My buttons didn't work.
I know what place I'm in.
I got the first one right, and then all the rest wrong. So it was, yeah, mine stopped working after one.
And these aren't really questions, you know, that people would sort of think about, right? But there's some research that suggests that pre-testing can actually sort of help to focus the mind and sort of help people remember things later on. So here we have our scoreboard. I think it was Tammy, and I forget who was. Sorry, it was Tony. Tony, then
Tony.
Tammy, then Dan. Yeah. All right.
Hey,
So
everyone won.
yeah, well done.
Well done.
Well done. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to exit out of this. And if we can go back to the presentation, the session here. So let me know when you can see the picture here of the Vancouver Library.
Yep, I'm good.
Yeah. It's not really the Vancouver Library.
No.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't think I'm seeing the right thing.
It's based off of it. So I just want to share a couple of stats. Is everybody back at the presentation? Can everybody see my screen? It says, let's talk about travel stats.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So the United Nations, World Trade Organization, they said that, sorry, World Tourism Organization, I always want to say trade, Tourism Organization, said that 1.5 billion tourists traveled in 2019, 1.5 billion. And for the last 9 years, there's been year-over-year growth. And at the start of this year, they were anticipating that it would continue about 3 or 4%, which is about 45 or 60 million more tourists for 2020. You know, think about, there was supposed to be the Tokyo Olympics, there was the Dubai World Trade Expo, and well, the reality of it simply was that tourism is now down 70%. People are, the economists and those who know are prognosticating that it's going to recover in about late 2021. There's a vaccine now, and so that's a hopeful thing. But about 20% figure is going to be about 2022 before it picks up. However, by the time it reaches 2030, it should be back to about 2 billion tourists traveling. And just to sort of put a marker against this, when they were thinking about this in 2018, just 2 years ago before the pandemic even hit, they were anticipating 1.8 billion for 2030. So even though with the pandemic, they're actually 2 billion, 0.2 billion more anticipated for 2030. You know, so what does this tell me? It tells me that people are chomping at the bit. They want to get out there. They're They're used to traveling. Traveling is becoming more and more a way of life. It's not just for the affluent. And this is good for me because I work in tourism. My husband works in tourism. My friends all work in tourism. And, you know, we're really feeling the effect of what the pandemic is. But I wanted to think, how can we be more responsible when it comes to tourism? And I didn't want to make this a guilt session. When I was, you know, planning this, I had at the back of my mind, Attila, the last thing you want to do is make people feel guilty about travel. We've been cooped up so long, we're stressed out, you know, we want to get out there. So nice, light little things. So tonight's learning outcomes, 3 of them. I want to explain the impact that tourism is having on the world, and we've talked about that already. I want us to be able to define what responsible tourism is. And then we'll just have a little dialogue, a little chit chat about some of the things that we can do as tourists that'll be a bit more responsible. So before I give the definition of responsible tourism, I'm gonna do a little web poll with you guys, and we'll do a word cloud. And what I'd like you to do is I'll put the link in the chat again, or if you want to, you can follow the instructions here if you go to pollev.com. You do have to enter my name, Attila Churdy 362, but I'll put the link in the chat. And then by doing so, that will allow us to see our word cloud grow. I don't know if it's going to glow, but it will grow. All right. So there it is in the chat now. And then what you should, what that should take you to is to a website. And if you're doing it on your phone, I think it's almost identical to if you're doing it in a browser. And it should take you to sort of a web page where you can, it might ask you for your name. You don't have to put your name, you can remain anonymous. But then it should bring you sort of like a box where you can type things in, and then you can hit submit. And then what we're going to do is I just want you to type words or phrases, as some of you are already doing, wonderful, of what it means to what does responsible tourism mean to you? And just keep typing words, just thoughts that come to your mind. If you're watching the presentation, you also see sort of the word cloud grow. But we'll maybe spend a minute, just what does responsible tourism mean to you? And maybe just another 10 more seconds, another couple of words. This is something that's really great. If we had like 500 people, it would be massive. All right, let's go ahead and stop it there. And if you want to come back to the presentation now, you'll see our word cloud.
Yeah.
And you see things like local, environment, and sustainable, and conservation, respecting, earth-friendly, cheap, learning, ecotourism, biking, hiking. This is all wonderful stuff. So I'm going to give you the definition now of what the Cape Town Declaration was on responsible tourism, and it really is responsible tourism is any form of tourism that can be consumed in a more responsible way. Pretty straightforward, and to the point. And when I was thinking about this, the first thing that came to my mind was sustainable tourism. And I want to say sustainable tourism is a very big umbrella. It involves a lot of different stakeholders. There's tourists, and then the local government, the local people. There's the rules, there's the environment, there's obviously the sustainability. So there's a lot under this umbrella. And sometimes I think it's a bit overwhelming. And so, but when we think about what is responsible tourism, it sounds less preachy. And for me, I think, yeah, I can do this. It's easy. I already kind of do some of the stuff in my every day-to-day life. So why not? So That's why I went with responsible tourism versus sustainable tourism. But there are some guiding principles to responsible tourism, and I'll share those. So responsible tourism minimizes negative social, economic, and environmental impacts. It generates greater economic benefits for local people and enhances the well-being of the host community. Responsible tourism involves local people and their decisions that affect their lives and their life chances. And it improves the working conditions and access to the industry. It makes positive contributions to the conservation of natural and cultural heritage, embracing diversity. And it provides a more enjoyable experience for tourists through more meaningful connections with local people and a greater understanding of local culture, social, and environmental issues. Responsible tourism provides access for physically challenged people. And it is culturally sensitive. It encourages respect between tourists and hosts, and it builds local pride and confidence. So that was the framework. And earlier tonight, I was thinking of, maybe we can put ourselves into breakout rooms, but I'm going to sort of skip that for the moment. I just want us to have a moment to think. And then what we're going to do is just come up with a list. And I know that I could use the whiteboard here, but it was giving me some grief earlier in the evening. So I'm going to do this a bit old school style, maybe ghetto style. I just opened up Notepad and just going around the room. Maybe I'll share just before, just to give it an idea. A couple of things that I've done in about responsible tourism. Key card, right? A lot of you have probably seen in a hotel room, you have to use the key card to activate the lights and activate the air conditioning. And if you're in the tropics and you're out all day, obviously you want to come home to a nice, cool, air-conditioned room. So a lot of people, they just get another key, or they stick their Costco key in there, or they stick a coffee spoon down there, and nice, the air conditioning is running and going to be nice and chilly when they get back. But here's my suggestion to that. Rather than sticking a key or something and having the air conditioning run when no one's there, just go down to the front desk or talk to housekeeping and just say, hey, I'm going to be out for the day. I'm anticipated back around 4 o'clock. Would you mind at maybe around 3:30 going in and turning on the AC for me? And then, you know what? I'm sure a lot of hotels would be more than happy to oblige. Nice and simple. Another thing, water bottles. It is my pet peeve at these hotels that are in resort properties, especially the ones that charge $25 a night resort fees. And what you get out of those resort fees are free local calls and 60 bottles of water. And those places that don't recycle, like Las Vegas, is notorious for this. So I went out and got a little simple. It's a collapsible water bottle. So it's great. I can fit it in my carry-on bag, and I can upgrade. Yay! Fit it in my carry-on bag, and it's great. And then I can refill it as I need it. And I really appreciate those hotels that don't just offer water bottles, but offer like water tanks. Those big tanks where you can refill your water. And then the last thing, I went and got this. It's just a nice little stocking stuffer, a little bag, and inside I keep their bamboo spoon, fork, metal straw cleaner, and I have a knife. And it's great because you can go through the x-ray machines or whatever at the airport, when they don't pull it out because it's not metal or the straw, but it's fine. And that sort of saves on a lot of those single-use plastics. Think about all the times that you're sort of running through the airport or you're just out and about. These are things that you can stick nicely into your everyday bag, and it doesn't take up much space. All right, so that's enough of me talking. Let's see, can someone give me a suggestion, one way that we can be more responsible tourists?
I always take a reusable mug,
Nice.
like for my coffee and things like that.
So expanding on the water bottle thing, any hotel that has a gym has a water bottle. So I tend to go use the gym water.
Yeah.
Not even using the gym, but yeah, that's usually a good place to get water.
The gym water cooler. Good idea. Good thinking. Anybody else?
Reusing towels.
Reusing towels. Yeah, you see that. Leave your
Days.
towels hung up, or leave the card on your bed so they don't change the sheets. And do we really need to reuse or have a fresh towel every time? I mean, it feels deluxe and luxurious, but we don't do it in our home, right? And so reusing towels. Any more?
The housekeeping piece in general, because even when you do that, sometimes they'll come and change your bedding or whatever, but if you're only there for a couple of nights, it's probably not.
Yeah, you can refuse housekeeping. And actually, there are some hotel chains that are offering more points. So if you're affiliated with their points, their reward loyalty system, if you just refuse turn down service or housekeeping service, you'll get some extra points that allow you to travel more.
Make the green choice is what they call it.
The green choice, yeah, making the green choice, yeah. And on
You
that,
can just-
sorry, go ahead, Tony.
Oh, I was just going to say, you can just use your do not disturb sign on your door. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And
Use your
then they
do not
don't come
disturb.
in.
Yep.
Sometimes they still come in.
Mhm.
Believe it or not.
And it's usually at the most inopportune time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just, even the do not disturb, they'll still knock and try to come in. I spend way too much time in hotel rooms. What about like not staying in a hotel, but staying somewhere where you can, make your own food or maybe use less resources because you're doing it on your own?
That's a great option, great suggestion, because or staying at smaller hotels, or finding out which hotels are environmentally friendly. Like, do we really need to stay in that hotel that has the golf course, the swimming pool, all of that? Or newer hotels. But I like that, staying at hotel alternatives that are more environmentally friendly.
We've always had a great experience with Airbnb. We've traveled the world using Airbnb.
I haven't tried it myself, but I am
It's
curious.
awesome.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
because
used it a
sometimes you
couple
get good
times.
hosts too. Like I've been Croatia and places where you wouldn't you'd stay in a hotel and it'd be an okay experience.
Mhm.
But you stay with a great host and they put on like not only a place to stay but also an experience of their culture, and
100%.
yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
If you go on to, I go to TripAdvisor quite a lot when I'm traveling, to look at reviews and think about hotels and also the tours that I want to do. And more I'm seeing now that you can do these eco tours, or tours that offer a local experience. So a few years ago, I was in Turkey, and one of the tours that they offered was to go to not a Syrian refugee camp, but a Syrian refugee community center. And you go there, they serve you a meal. They talked about what was happening in Syria and the effects and what Turkey was doing. And so there's more and more people are wanting to have that local experience, meeting with the local people and finding out how they live. Absolutely. Walking tours are a great way, so you go to someplace new and they usually employ local guides. They're not guides from like Gray Line or guides from other countries that come in, and the money stays in the country, which is actually another important thing to consider is leakage. Every time I sort of say that, I think about diapers, but leakage it means how much money is actually leaving that country's economy. And in some Caribbean countries, in Jamaica, in some places, up to 80% of what tourists spend doesn't actually stay local. It goes back to corporations like Hilton and Princess Cruises, and not to badmouth any of them, they're all fantastic. But yeah, leakage is something that leaves. So if you have an opportunity, take a local guide. Any more?
What about avoiding things like swimming with dolphins and stuff like that? Like, is that?
Yeah, and that's a big thing. In some places, I think they use animals, not maybe in an inhumane way, but in the way that sort of is taking advantage of them for the benefit of tourists. And you're right. Yeah, we all think, oh yeah, we want to swim with dolphins, but what is it doing to the dolphin? It's in captivity, and is it happy that 100 different strangers are patting it on the nose and giving the kisses? Good point. Think about the animals.
Also walking everywhere and using public transport.
Yeah, walking and using public transport as opposed to using cars. I think in the Bahamas, you are allowed to rent cars, but they're electric. They're only electric cars. There's no, you can't rent. The locals can, but as a tourist, I don't think you can rent gasoline or diesel vehicles. Yeah. So wow, so we came up with a fairly good list. I stopped typing because I got involved, but you know, there's really some small, simple things. Like, it doesn't have to be going out and spending hundreds of dollars to you know, massage your guilt about the carbon footprint. But there's little things that we can do. Think about the local economy and the local creatures and the local people, and you know, we'll do much better. So I'm just gonna sum up here. You know, I'd like to end tonight by sharing with you what I think is an absolutely brilliant way a country has introduced this mechanism of bringing awareness and adoption to responsible tourism. And that's the country of Palau. It's an archipelago of about 200 natural limestone and volcanic islands. Yeah, it's roughly about halfway between Papua New Guinea and the Philippines. The islands are covered in lush rainforest, and they're surrounded by an aquamarine lagoon. It is an absolute paradise. And because it was such a paradise, it was coming under threat from tourists. They were damaging the reefs and littering the ocean and poaching the protected species. And, you know, with a very tiny population where the tourists outnumber the locals 8-1, and they've got these limited resources, what were they going to do? And so they turned to the idea of having tourists police themselves. So in 2018, Palau was the first nation to only issue visas to tourists who sign an eco-pledge, promising that they will act in an environmentally responsible way upon entry. Visitors have to sign the passport, and that says that they will act ecologically responsible for the island, for the sake of Palau's children and the future generations of Palauans. It's kind of small, so I'll just read. The pledge says, "Children of Palau, I take this pledge as your guest to preserve and protect your beautiful and unique island home. I vow to tread lightly, act kindly, and explore mindfully. I shall not take what is not given. I shall not harm what does not harm me. The only footprints I shall leave are those that will wash away." So thank you very much for participating tonight. I wish you all the very best of travels in the future once we can go. And thank you.
Thanks, Attila. That's amazing. That was great.
That's very informational. Thank you.
Yeah, that was
Very,
awesome.
very
Any
informational and good usage of the side games and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, I love sort of pub trivia. And so I thought I've used there was another quiz that I used before. I think it's Kahoots.
Kahoot,
And
yeah.
have you used it, Kahoots?
I use that every week. Yeah.
Yeah. But the only thing I don't like about Kahoots, and maybe it's changed since the last time I used it, was you have to look up at the presenter screen. It's not, you know, the question isn't on the same. And